In the final days of the 1920s, America stood at the height of its confidence. Cities glowed with electric lights, factories worked day and night, and millions of people believed they were witnessing a new era of endless prosperity. Newspapers called it the Roaring Twenties, a decade of speed, modernity, and dazzling success. But beneath the glittering surface, cracks had already begun to form. The nation was celebrating a prosperity built on fragile foundations, easy credit, speculative investments, and production far beyond what people could truly afford. And then, on an October morning in 1929, everything changed. Overnight, millions of Americans watched their fortunes disappear. Banks collapsed, businesses shut their doors. Families who had felt secure only days before suddenly found themselves facing hunger and uncertainty. This is the deeper story of why the United States fell into the Great Depression, how a powerful economy unraveled piece by piece. To understand the collapse, we need to begin with the fever that gripped Wall Street. During the 1920s, investing in the stock market became a national obsession. People from nearly every social group, factory workers, teachers, shop owners, began buying stocks with the hope of quick wealth. And prices rose so fast, it seemed as if they could only rise forever. But here was the problem. Stock prices weren't rising because businesses were growing. They were rising because everyone believed they would keep rising. A powerful illusion took hold. Investors borrowed heavily to buy shares, often paying only a small percentage up front. This practice, called buying on margin, created a market floating on borrowed money. It was a bubble, delicate, oversized, and waiting for a spark. By October 1929, that spark arrived. Confidence cracked. Investors rushed to sell, and in a matter of days, the stock market collapsed, wiping out billions of dollars in wealth. It was not the single cause of the depression, but it was the first domino to fall. While Wall Street spiraled upward, everyday Americans were caught in a different kind of trap. The 1920s introduced a new way to buy goods: credit. Refrigerators, radios, automobiles, almost everything could be purchased through installment payments. At first, it seemed like a miracle. People could enjoy modern life without needing the money up front. But this new lifestyle came with a hidden cost. Debt piled up faster than incomes could grow. As long as jobs were steady, the system worked. But when the economy slowed, families suddenly found themselves unable to pay bills. Homes were lost, cars were repossessed, and consumer spending, the engine of the American economy, dropped sharply. This decline in spending sent shockwaves through industries, setting the stage for mass layoffs and deeper instability.
Another problem was quietly growing inside America's factories. New machines and assembly lines allowed companies to produce goods at unprecedented speeds. Cars rolled off assembly lines. Textiles poured out of mills. Food, appliances, clothing, production soared. But while production increased, wages did not keep up. The average American simply didn't earn enough to buy everything being produced. Warehouses began to fill with unsold goods. Factories realized they had made too much. And then the inevitable happened. Production slowed. Workers were laid off. Incomes fell even further. This created a vicious cycle. People couldn't buy goods, factories reduced output, more people lost jobs, demand fell even more. The American economy was caught in a downward spiral long before the stock market crash.
As the crisis deepened, panic spread into the heart of the financial system, the banks. In the 1920s, thousands of small, independent banks operated across the country. Many of them had weak reserves and risky lending practices. And, most importantly, there was no government insurance to protect people's savings. So when rumors spread that a bank might fail, people rushed to withdraw their money. This rush, called a bank run, became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Even healthy banks couldn't survive if everyone demanded their money at the same time. Between 1929 and 1933, more than 9,000 banks closed their doors. Families lost everything. Businesses could no longer borrow. The flow of money, the lifeblood of the economy, came to a standstill. Without credit, the American economy froze.
At the center of the storm was the Federal Reserve, the newly created institution responsible for managing the nation's money supply. But during the crisis, the Fed hesitated. Instead of injecting money into the financial system to stabilize banks, it worried about speculation and tightened credit even further. This decision proved devastating. As money became harder to borrow, businesses couldn't expand, banks couldn't recover, consumers couldn't spend, unemployment continued to rise. Economists today widely agree a more aggressive response could have softened the blow. But the Fed's inaction allowed the crisis to deepen into a national catastrophe. The statistics of the Great Depression are staggering, but the human stories behind them are even more powerful. Factories shut down across the country. Unemployment soared to 25%. Entire neighborhoods fell silent as businesses closed their doors. Families who once enjoyed comfortable lives now waited in line for food. Children wore thin coats through harsh winters. People traveled long distances in search of work, often without success. The Depression didn't just break the economy. It broke dreams, stability, and the sense of security that Americans once felt. It was a decade of hardship, resilience, and survival.
The Great Depression reshaped the United States in profound ways. Millions of Americans moved across the country in search of opportunity, leaving behind farms, towns, and communities. Agriculture collapsed in many regions, especially after devastating droughts created the Dust Bowl. Entire families packed their belongings and began long journeys westward, hoping for a better life. But the Depression also transformed government policy. The crisis made it clear that the financial system needed stronger rules and protections. It led to the creation of deposit insurance, Social Security, and major economic reforms that still shape modern America. The suffering was immense, but it forced the country to rethink how an economy should be managed. The Great Depression was not caused by a single event. It was the result of many weaknesses coming together at the worst possible moment. Deep calm, documentary, serious male voice, like his Peter Coyote style. The Great Depression was not caused by a single event. It was the result of many weaknesses coming together at the worst possible moment. Speculative excess, dangerous levels of debt, Factories producing far more than people could buy. Banks without protection. Delayed action from policymakers. One by one, each of these factors strained the system, and when the strain became too great, the entire structure collapsed. But the story does not end with collapse alone. The Depression also ignited a new understanding of how economies function and how they can fail. It taught governments, economists, and citizens the importance of stability, oversight, and thoughtful policy. Most importantly, it revealed something about the human spirit. Even in the darkest times, people adapt, endure, and rebuild. The Great Depression remains one of the most painful chapters in American history, yet also one of the most instructive. By remembering what happened, we are better prepared to prevent it from happening again.